What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we are basically going to continue our coverage over Spider-Man Civil War tie-in. Now, remember, Marvel's Civil War was basically a war between Captain America and Iron Man. And of course, you did have all the heroes pick a side. But basically, the reason why those two characters went to war was because a certain law, a law that basically told superheroes, if you want to be a superhero in the American country, you have to basically register, meaning that you're technically working for the American government. If you do not register, you are basically breaking the law and you'll be thrown into jail. It was a way to kind of control superheroes, because what kicked off the Civil War event was that you basically had a character known as Nitro explode and kill 600 people. And of course, that death toll was very huge. And of course, a lot of the people of the public was very upset with the idea that a villain killed 600 innocent people, and they asked the American government to do something about it. And so now you have the American government kind of trying to control superheroes. Now, Iron Man was on side with the American government. He felt like heroes should be controlled, because with heroes just running around freely, innocent people die left and right. It's Iron Man trying to kind of protect the innocent people out there who are always being caught in the middle of a superhero battle. Now, with that being said, Spider-Man did join Iron Man's side. And matter of fact, with Spider-Man joining Iron Man's side, Iron Man did ask Spider-Man to tell the world who he was. And of course, he told the world that he was Peter Parker. This was the moment where everybody in the world basically found out that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, which of course does lead into One More Day, the big storyline that did change Spider-Man comics forever. But either way, though, at this point, you still have Peter Parker fighting alongside Iron Man. Now, if you're wondering, why in the world did Peter Parker tell the world that he is Spider-Man? Because Iron Man wanted Peter Parker to tell the world, that to show the world that heroes are going to open up their secret lives to them, but to also show that even if your secret identity is out there, you'll be safe. No villain will come after your family. Now, of course, we know that will happen because of the Back in Black storyline with Kingpin. But with Iron Man saying, if you go out in the world and tell the world that you're Spider-Man, we can show them that there's no danger in the world knowing your secret identity. Now, by this point in the Civil War, you kind of have Peter Parker realizing that maybe he chose the wrong side. And what I mean by that is, you have Peter Parker realize that maybe Iron Man was not the right choice, that maybe Peter Parker should be on Captain America's side. Because when it comes to Captain America, right now, he's trying to fight against that law. He feels like heroes have the right to keep their secret identity. He feels like heroes have the right to be out there and protect the world. But he also feels like with this law, heroes do not have freedom. And when it comes to America, it's supposed to stand for the land of the free. But either way, though, you do have Steve Rogers and Iron Man going at war, but Peter Parker is beginning to realize that maybe he's on the wrong side, especially when he finds out that Mr. Fantastic and Iron Man are getting paid $2 billion to make facilities as a way to hold heroes who were breaking the law. And of course, it's Peter Parker wanting to know, what are these facilities like? Because heroes, most of them have powers. So a regular prison can't hold these heroes. You need a more advanced kind of facility. And so it's Peter Parker wondering, what kind of facilities are Iron Man and Mr. Fantastic are making? On top of that, do they give people good living conditions? There are so many questions that are being asked right now by Peter Parker, and he goes to Iron Man to ask him, show me. Show me what you're making. Show me what kind of facilities that you and Reed Richards are making at the moment. And so you do have Peter Parker be taken by Tony Stark over to this new prison that is being made by Tony Stark and Reed Richards. Now also being made by Hank Pym as well. And by this point, Hank Pym is actually known by Yellow Jacket. But either way though, you have these three characters coming together and they did make a brand new facility. It was called Prison 42. Now the reason why it has that name is because it was the 42nd idea that was basically thought of by Tony Stark and Reed Richards after the whole nitro bomb explosion thing that happened at the very beginning of Civil War. But this prison is being made as a way to hold heroes or villains who are basically breaking the law. Now, with that being said, each cell was made specially for a certain character because different characters require different methods to be held inside of prison cells. And so right now, it's Iron Man and Reed saying, each cell is made for a certain person, and they all have different methods to hold that person once we have captured them. Now, for Peter Parker, the big question is, are they stuck in here forever? And of course, that is a very important question. And the reason why it is so important is because for Iron Man, he says yes, they are stuck in here forever. And the reason why, because you have to realize they are basically a ticking time bomb. If we let them go out in the world after staying here for, let's say, 1 or 2 years, they're angry at the government. They're angry at the world. And then, of course, they can go out there and cause more problems. And yes, we may stop them. And yes, we may bring them right back here into prison. But the problem is, though, if we do it the first time and let them back out, they're going to kill innocent people. And so we have to throw them back into our prison once again. So actually, yes, they're going to be in here forever unless they actually register. That's the key thing. If they actually register. If they don't, they can never leave because, again, they will be a ticking time bomb. And so it makes sense to hold them in here until they actually register, or just hold them in here forever to save the world. Because again, heroes are becoming dangerous. Now, we actually do jump back over to Peter Parker talking to Reed Richards. Now, I really like this conversation because it's Peter Parker going to Reed and asking Reed why. Why are you doing this? Why are you helping Iron Man? Why are you helping the American government? Why are you building a prison to hold our friends in? Why are you doing all of this for? And you actually have Reed Richards look at Peter Parker and say, because the law. And you have Reed tell a story about his uncle, how this was a time where the American government was looking for people who could possibly be communists. And of course, when it came to Reed Richards' uncle, his uncle stood out. And his uncle looked like he would be a communist. Now, his uncle was not, but of course, the American government believed he was one. Now, you did have Reed's uncle fight against the law, but of course, he lost that battle. And this is the point of Reed's story. When it comes to the law was made to basically keep the world safe, to keep the world sane. And without no laws, you're going to have people go insane. But of course, you can't go into a battle and knowing you're going to lose because it's basically a losing battle. Why fight for something if you're going to lose? And that's the point of his story about his uncle. His uncle tried to prove that he wasn't a communist, but he lost that battle. So why try to fight against something you're going to lose? And with this law being made by the American government, it's something the heroes can't fight against because they're going to lose against the law. It's him saying, Peter, we need the law to keep us insane. We need the law to make sure there's order. We need the law to make sure that innocent people do not die. And that is why. Now, this is the moment where you basically have Peter Parker realize that he was on the wrong side. And what I mean by that is you actually have Peter Parker realize that he should be on Captain America's side. And so you have Peter Parker sneak around Avengers Tower to go find Aunt May and Mary Jane, to wake them up and tell them they need to get out of here. They need to get far away and find somewhere safe. Now, of course, Mary Jane and Aunt May are freaking out because they have no idea what Peter Parker is talking about. But this is Peter Parker saying, you have to leave. because I realized I made a mistake. I realized I've been on the wrong side. I realized that things need to change. I realized I need to join Captain America's side. And so you have Peter Parker change into his Iron Spider suit, but right when he does that, that is the moment you have Iron Man just smash right through the wall, and this begins a battle between Iron Man and Spider-Man in this book right here. Now, getting into the next chapter, we actually do pick up with Spider-Man right now fighting against Iron Man. Now, the reason why Iron Man is fighting against Spider-Man is because what happened in the main storyline. So in the main storyline, Iron Man and Reed Richards made a clone of Thor. Yes, you heard that right, because the original Thor, the one we all love and know of, he was dead at this point in Marvel Comics, or on the way back to coming back to life, but he was no longer around to be part of the Civil War. And so with that being said, Iron Man, Reed Richards, I want to say Hank Pym as well, they made a clone of Thor. Now this clone Thor went on to actually kill Goliath, another character in Marvel Comics. But with the death of Goliath, it showed both sides how bloody this war is becoming. Because at first, it was just a war of punch and kicks, trying to capture people, trying to get away from people. But then it turned bloody thanks to a evil clone Thor. And so with that evil clone Thor, it told Peter Parker that he was on the wrong side. And so he basically jumped over to Captain America's side. And so that is how a Spider-Man basically switched sides. Now, with that being said, though, in this storyline, we pick up right after that, where, of course, Peter Parker has switched sides, and that is why Iron Man is coming after Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man is wearing the Iron Spider suit, and Tony Stark thinks that because he's so smart and techie that he had put a safeguard in Peter Parker's Iron Spider-Man suit that basically Peter Parker won't be able to get away. But you have Peter Parker tell Iron Man, you're mistaken, because I am also a tech person and I was able to figure out how to break through your safeguards so that I can still use the Iron Spider suit. And you have Peter Parker being able to get away. Now, the next few pages are really just Peter Parker finding Aunt May and Mary Jane, because remember, he did tell them to go somewhere safe to get away. And the reason why he did that is because what happened in the main storyline, which was that he switched sides. And so with them switching sides, he knew that he had to get Aunt May and Mary Jane away from Avengers Tower, which of course led into the battle between Iron Man and Spider-Man. But with Peter Parker being able to regroup with Aunt May and Mary Jane, it's basically Peter Parker telling them, listen, I switched sides. I joined Captain America's side. I'm going to help him fight against Iron Man and Iron Man's people. They were right. They are wrong. I realize what's the right thing to do here. Now, of course, you do have Peter Parker want Aunt May and Mary Jane to go away and get far away from New York and all these different battles, because Peter Parker or Mary Jane, actually, I think it was Mary Jane, they cleared out their bank accounts. And so it's kind of like you have enough money to just get away and just stay away, because I want you far away from these battles until everything calms down. But of course, you have Mary Jane kind of like, no, I'm not going anywhere at all. I'm staying here with you, Peter, because we are family. We are husband and wife, and we're going to stay together. And of course, you got Aunt May walking in, giving her a little speech and everything. That's cool and all, but it's basically her saying like she's going to stay too. And so Peter Parker has to be Spider-Man, help Captain America out, but also protect Aunt May and Mary Jane. Now, this actually leads into the next section where actually we're going to skip a couple sections, but we're going to jump over to the section where you have Peter Parker actually go to a news channel. And I like this moment right here because this is Peter Parker calling out Iron Man. It's Peter Parker saying, hey, listen, I was on Iron Man's side at first. I thought I was doing the right thing at first, but then I realized I was doing the wrong thing by helping Iron Man out. I realized what he was doing was wrong. I realized that everything Iron Man was doing the last couple weeks or whatever were all wrong. And then you have Peter Parker bringing the idea about the prison 42. Of course, we saw it earlier. It's a prison to hold powerful beings who are basically breaking the law. And so it's Peter Parker saying he's throwing people into prisons and holding them in there forever. No trial, no evidence, and not even the chance to have the chance to go out in the world again. They are locked away unless they actually register. And if they don't, they're stuck there forever. How is that fair? No trial, no evidence. Nothing to show that they could possibly be bad down the road. And so basically it's Peter Parker saying that what Iron Man is doing is just wrong. It's completely wrong. And it's Peter Parker telling the whole world this on a news channel. There's cameras pointing to him right now. Everybody's watching this. And you have Peter Parker say, if Iron Man and his people want to come get me, come get me. But I know what side I should be on now. And you have Iron Man get very angry. And Iron Man's all like, you heard him. Bring him in now. Now, the next chapter starts off with basically Peter Parker right now staying in a motel with Aunt May and Mary Jane. And of course, Peter Parker is just walking out of his room to go get a newspaper to see what's happening right now in the world. But when he does, of course, he walks by a prostitute or sex worker, and you actually have this lady realize that it's Peter Parker, because remember, the whole world now knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. The whole world knows that Peter Parker just left Iron Man's side and joined Captain America's side. And so right now you have Peter Parker right now trying to blend in, but this lady realized who he is, and she's kind of like, ooh, payday. I'm going to basically rat out this location to hopefully make some money. Now, we have no idea who she's going to tell, but of course, it's her saying, I'm going to make some money. At the same time, you also have Steve Rogers now realizing that Spider-Man is on his side, that Steve Rogers wants Spider-Man and his people with him, because it's Steve Rogers saying, Spider-Man should be with us as a way to protect him, because without us and him not being with us, he's basically putting himself in harm's way. You do have Steve Rogers say like he understands why Peter Parker is trying to keep his distance at the moment because what he just did on live TV. But at the same time, though, it's Steve Rogers saying we need Peter Parker here, because if we have Peter Parker here, we can protect him. But with him being out there on his own, he is technically very vulnerable for any kind of attacks from Iron Man and his people. And so you have Steve Rogers sent off the Human Torch as a way to find Peter Parker. Because when it comes to the Human Torch and Spider-Man, they're like best buds. And so it makes sense for the Human Torch to go out of his way to find his best friend. Now, this is where basically you have the build-up begin for the next storyline, which is called Back in Black. And actually, we covered that storyline on my channel. It's the storyline where it picks up right after Civil War, where, of course, Aunt May does get shot because Kingpin hires somebody to basically shoot Aunt May. Well, originally shoot Peter Parker, but they shot Aunt May. But either way, though, it was Kingpin hiring a gunman to do some harm to Peter Parker's life. And of course he did by shooting Aunt May. And so with that being said, though, you actually do have Kingpin right now hiring that person to go after Peter Parker to basically kill him or kill Mary Jane or kill Aunt May. But again, we know he kills Aunt May, which of course leads into the Back in Black storyline, which then leads into One More Day. Now, this actually leads into a meeting between Peter Parker and Captain America, because remember earlier, the Human Torch did go out of his way to find Peter Parker. And what Human Torch did was he left a flame message in the sky to say, hey, call me. And of course, Peter Parker did call John. I almost said the wrong name, guys. Oh my God. But you did have Peter Parker actually call up Johnny Storm. And of course, Johnny Storm did call up Steve Rogers. Now, you do have the two characters actually meet up. And with this meeting, it's more of Steve Rogers telling Peter Parker why they're doing this. Why are they fighting against Iron Man and his people? Why are they fighting against the American government? And what it seems like is that basically it's Steve Rogers telling Peter Parker that the world is changing. The country is changing. Because usually if there was something going on in the country, the entire country decides together on how they should handle that problem, how things should be fixed, or how things should be changed. But when it comes to this new world, it's more of what the press says, or the news channels, the media. If the people out there are going to follow the media and not themselves, then this country is falling apart. Because why are you following the media? The media is supposed to tell you certain things like what's happening in the world, but not try to tell you what you should do. And right now, it's Steve Rogers saying that right now, you have too many people right now trying to tell you what to do, but the entire country is not together with that move. And so it's Steve Rogers saying, for a country, we should all be working together to make a big time decision. Instead, we're split because you have different parties trying to force your thought process on what you should try to do instead of working together as one. And so that is why Steve Rogers is fighting against Iron Man right now and his people and the American government. Now, the ending of this chapter has two things going on at the same time, where one, you right now have Peter Parker and Steve Rogers right now regrouping with the rest of Steve Rogers' team to get ready for the final showdown between Steve Rogers and Tony Stark. But while they are regrouping, you have the sniper that Kingpin hired, and his name was Jake. I want to say it was Jake Martino, but you have Jake Martino right now getting ready to snipe Aunt May or Mary Jane, because he was able to find the motel that Aunt May and Mary Jane are staying at, which of course makes sense because remember that lady earlier who was a sex worker said she possibly has a huge payday coming, and of course that payday is here. She told Kingpin, and now Kingpin bought a sniper, and that sniper is about to shoot Aunt May or Mary Jane. Now, when it comes to the final chapter of Spider-Man Civil War tie-in, we actually do pick up with Spider-Man calling up Mary Jane right before the final showdown because he knows it's going to be a big one. He knows it's going to be one heck of finale. He knows there could be a lot of death down the road. But of course, he has to go out there to help Steve Rogers fight against Iron Man. And so basically right now, you have Peter Parker on the phone with Mary Jane, but while he's on the phone with her, the story moves on. And so we see as the conversation is happening, we actually pick up in the present day where the final showdown happened, where you have both sides fighting against each other. It's big, it's epic, it's all over the place. A lot of things are happening. People are getting hurt. People are possibly dying, but it's the final showdown between all the heroes at this point in Marvel Comics who are on Earth, in America, fighting against each other. It's huge. It's big. But of course, it shows what Civil War had actually led to. And this battle was being televised all over the world. A lot of people are seeing this happening. You have like J. Jonah Jameson and innocent people watching this battle. You have Mary Jane, Aunt May watching in their motel as this big battle happens. You even have the Kingpin himself watching this battle as well. There's people watching this on the news as the two heroes are fighting against each other. Now, remember, when it comes to the Kingpin, though, he's watching for pure enjoyment because he knows somebody has to lose. Whoever loses, he'll be happy either way. But he's also happy because he knows what's coming. He knows what is about to happen to Peter Parker's life. But we're going to go ahead and jump to the end of this book because Civil War, a lot of things happened. And of course, it affected the country completely. And I really want to have more conversation about how the world was affected when we actually finally sit down and cover Civil War. But I want to jump to the very end of Spider-Man Civil War tie-in. And the reason why, because, well, as soon as Peter Parker gets back to the motel to see Mary Jane and Aunt May, let's not forget about that sniper. That sniper was waiting for Peter Parker. His main target was Peter Parker. But of course, thanks to Peter Parker's spider sense, he was able to grab Mary Jane and get out of the way of the sniper shot. Except the problem is, though, the sniper does get Aunt May. Aunt May is shot by the sniper. And this leads us right into Back in Black, which we already covered. So I tell you guys, go watch that video right there, and then we cover one more day as well. But with that being said, guys, this is the end of Spider-Man Civil War. I do hope you enjoy this storyline a lot, and please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. Guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.